Go. Who Comes with Cannons, Chapter 11. Elmira. Exhausted, Truth didn't pay attention to the route they took on the railroad that night. She slept whenever she could during the stifling, muggy August night. The wind that came into the open train windows woke her often as it blew in stinking smoke and sparks from the ever-puffing locomotive. Shepherded by Squire, who seemed to need little rest, they changed trains twice. In the morning, Truth scarcely remembered she'd done that. By mid-morning, she sat in her seat, eating cold bacon rolls that Squire had bought at the last depot stop. As she looked out the window at a dusty green landscape dotted with small towns, she asked Squire, "Does he know all the railroad lines?" Lily answered for him as he smiled and closed his eyes. "The printer he works for prints railroad timetables." "Oh," Lily went on. "We have a new last name now, Squire and I. We chose Bardwell. I think you will guess why." Truth licked her fingers as she said, "My ma was a Bardwell. The Bardwells will be pleased. I'll tell them all about thee and how kind thee have been and how much thee have helped us. I will never forget thee." Suddenly she remembered something. Mr. Fields, that slave catcher who was after Squire, joined the Confederate Army and got hurt real bad. He lost a leg. He won't be hunting anyone anymore. "No, he won't," agreed Lily. "The North is going to win this war, and that'll stop slavery forever." "I do hope so, and fast." Truth asked Squire, "When will we get to Elmira?" "Around noon. We'll go straight to the prison." Truth shuddered. Quakers knew much of prisons. They had often been jailed in England and America. Elmira was a neat little town located north and west of New York City near the Pennsylvania border. The townspeople didn't bother Truth as she, Squire, and Lily got off at the depot. The men and women stared at them for only a moment before going on about their business. Squire could not hire a horse cab, but a man with a wagon was willing to take them all to the prison. Truth could see he was curious about their errand, but he did not say anything except to ask, "Do you want me to wait outside for you?" "Yes, we do," answered Truth, feeling President Lincoln's note in her pocket. It gave her courage. Her first sight of the prison at the foot of the long hill dismayed her. A 12-foot-high fence of new lumber surrounded it. Guards dressed in blue walked its length with rifles on their shoulders. The driver took the wagon to the gates and drew it to a halt. Truth looked past the gates to long rows of one-story wooden buildings and rows of white tents. Two armed soldiers at the gate came forward with another soldier who asked them sharply, "What is your business here?" Squire answered, "To see the commandant. The girl here has a paper from the president." The man said sternly, "Let me see that, miss." Truth surrendered the note, and the soldier read it quickly and only said, "Yes." She asked, "Does thee know Robert Bardwell of North Carolina? Is he here?" "There are some 8,000 Confederate prisoners of war here. No, I don't know the name." He turned to the other soldier. "Open the gates. Let this girl through. I'll take her to the commandant's office. The rest of you wait here outside." Lily hugged Truth and whispered, "Go on, child. Good luck to you. We'll wait by the wagon." Truth nodded. As she went through the gates, she asked the soldier, "Please, sir, give me my note from President Lincoln. It is mine. He wrote that it was." The man looked at her, but didn't give her back the paper. He led the way toward an unpainted wooden building where the U.S. flag hung limp in the warm air. A foul odor drifted to Truth's nostrils. It was so evil she put her finger under her nose. The soldier grinned. "That'd be our famous Foster's Pond you're getting a whiff of. It's rotten, but it's good enough for the rebels here." He took her up onto the porch, opened the door, and brought her into an office that was furnished only with a desk, some chairs, and a rack of guns. He said to the young soldier behind the desk, "This girl wants to see the commandant. She's got a letter for him." Now he gave Truth a note. "A girl?" The soldier stood up. "Say, I see she's a Quaker. Where did she come from?" "Indiana," said Truth. "I've come about my cousin, Robert Bardwell. He's a prisoner here, and I want to see him. I have a note from Abraham Lincoln that says I can." The first soldier said, "She's a bold piece, this one." "A letter from the president, you say?" Truth gave it to the second man, who read it, looked hard at her, and said, "I'll take you to the commandant. Wait here." The young northerner went inside a door at the rear of the front office and closed it after himself, but he was back at once. Come in. The commandant will see you. The commandant, who sat in another bare room, was a big soldier with gray side whiskers, a red face, and sharp, dark eyes. President Lincoln's letter was on the table in front of him. Sit down, girl, he ordered, and tell me how you got this. Truth said, I am Tabitha Ruth Hopkins from Indiana. I moved to North Carolina when my father died. Robert Bardwell is my North Carolina cousin. We are friends. He was forced into the Confederate Army. That was not fair. The Union Army captured him and brought him here. I came out from North Carolina to get him. How in the dickens did you get here? The man's bristly gray eyebrows rose. On the Underground Railroad. I went to see President Lincoln. Mr. Frederick Douglass helped me too. The president wrote me that note. It's real. Well, this beats all. Yes, I believe it is real. This paper's from the Executive Mansion. It says so. And that is Lincoln's signature. I've seen it before. The officer got up and went to the filthy, fly-blown window. I guess I'll have to release your cousin to you by order of the president. I'll have him brought here now. Truth felt the tension drain out of her. She'd done it. In the deep recesses of her bonnet, she smiled. Suddenly, an idea struck her. She knew it would sound strange to the officer, but she blurted out all the same. Please, sir, tell him his kettle cousin has come for him. Kettle cousin, eh? A poor relation, are you? Yes, sir, an orphan. Sit over there on the bench. I'll check the records on him and send a soldier to find him. The commandant left the room and closed the door after himself. Truth went over to the bench and sat down. She waited and waited, swinging her feet. Finally, she heard the outer door open and the baritone hum of men's voices. Then the second door was flung open. There, in the doorway, between two armed soldiers, stood a gaunt, sallow-faced young man with a black beard and long, uncombed dark hair. His shirt and trousers were dirty, and his shoes were old and patched. He gazed dully at Truth, who now took off her bonnet. Finally, he explained, It is thee, Truth. That is my mother's dress. How did thee? Truth was so overcome by the sight of her cousin's tattered appearance that she could only stammer, I. The commandant broke in. Oh, she'll find the words to tell you later on. She doesn't lack for them. I must release you to her. Go, Robert Bardwell, you are a free man. Free? How is that? Mr. Lincoln has decreed it. The president? Yes, Bardwell, the president. The commandant was now at his desk writing. As Robert looked in disbelief at Truth, the officer gave her Lincoln's note and his own scrawled authorization to surrender Quaker prisoner Robert Bardwell to her. When she had received both papers, Truth put on her bonnet and took her cousin's arm. She thanked the grim commandant and led Robert out of the office. She couldn't help but notice the arm she held was skin and bone. He was so thin. As they walked slowly down the hall, she asked him, Is thee wounded, Robert? No, he said wearily, but I have malaria and will need quinine. That's what they gave me here sometimes. We shall get thee well. We got Todd home well. Robert stopped. Thee has Todd at home? He asked, amazed. Yes, he's hiding at the rocks. Robert, thee can stay here in the north as a free man if thee wants, or thee can come home with me. What did thee choose? Home, he breathed softly. I had guessed that. As they left the prison and the gates were shut behind them, Truth suddenly heard a shout from the sentry's walk. Looking up, she saw the commandant standing there. All at once, he shook his head as if in disbelief and then snapped off a salute and smiled. Impulsively, Truth took off her bonnet again and swung it by its string in a wave. She and Squire helped Robert into the wagon, and they started back to Elmira. As they rode, Truth told him bits and pieces of the events leading up to his rescue, but not about Matthew Bardwell. That could be told later, she decided.